Engagement means the desire to learn, communicate, participate, be active, and persevere. Engaged readers and writers enjoy reading and writing. They do not need to be rewarded or punished to get them to read and write. A great deal of time, thought, study, organization, and review goes into creating an effective learning environment for engagement with reading and writing. Most of this happens in teacher time, when learners are not in the classroom with you. Teacher time is non-contact time. During non-contact time, the teacher sets up the infrastructure of the literacy environment. They use strategies to generate a classroom culture that supports engagement in literacy. Researchers agree that engagement leads to achievement, but what is engagement? How can teachers see if learners are engaged? How can teachers create the conditions for engagement? Authentic engagement happens when learners are intrinsically motivated. This means that they do not need external pressure or rewards from the teacher to make them learn. They want to learn. Teaching methods determine the kind of outcomes learners achieve. For example, copying and waiting for the teacher to mark your work leads to passive imitation. On the other hand, while giving the learners opportunities to pay attention to their own original text and the desire to follow their interests can lead to the generation of ideas and enhanced comprehension. Learners who are really engaged in literacy have intrinsic motivation. Engaged learners ask a lot of questions because they are curious. They want to solve their problems and move on to the next stage of the task as they are interested in it. They are proud of what they produce and want to move on to more challenging tasks. If they have to wait, they get impatient and try to attract your attention or seek help from a fellow learner. Engaged learners use the resources in the classroom to find out what they want to know through reading and to make meaning through writing. If a learner chooses another book and reads it, this shows that learners read and write because they want to, not just because the teacher tells them to. Engaged learners are creative. They prefer to use their own imagination. Making their own pictures is more interesting for them than coloring in worksheets. They copy letters and words from the chalkboard, not only to please the teacher, but because they want to write their own stories. Learners quickly get bored if they are inactive. Boredom kills engagement. Learners hate to be bored. They avoid boredom by looking for something interesting to do. If there's nothing for them to do, they will try to invent something, like talking or playing with other learners. They might even cry or fight. Do not always use punishment and threats to maintain order in the classroom. Rather, pay serious attention to improving the quality of the learning environment. Spoken or written language has a context. This means that it happens in a particular place and has a purpose. A speaker or writer and an audience, either a listener, a viewer, or a reader. The speaker or writer wants to communicate a message to an audience. Learners learn language best by interacting meaningfully with other people. Therefore, children should be interacting with each other and the teacher when they do language activities. Learners need to use different places and/or spaces for different kinds of communicative learning activities. For example, it is a good idea to have a mat on the floor and a low chair for the teacher to sit on, so that a group of learners, or even the whole class, can sit on the floor close to the teacher and respond to them directly. Especially during shared reading and read aloud sessions. If you have a large class, it is not always possible to communicate effectively with the entire group at the same time. Do group rotation, where some learners break off into a smaller group and share a special place with the teacher to read. This is done while the rest of the class do assigned activities. Here we have a grade R classroom's layout. Do you see the different spaces? Learners need to move in order to learn effectively, even after the end of grade R. Children express meaning through movement. How many opportunities have you given your learners during the past week to move?